Hi guys, I've had this watch come in. It's an Apple Watch, obviously, and it's a bit mashed. The screen is broken, it's flaking off, but it's still working. The digitizer is still working. So this is very common. If the digitizer is working, you can generally save the watch and all the information in it. So you can see the back of this watch. It's a Series 3, it's a 38mm. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the front screen off and have a look inside and see if the digitizer is actually intact. So I start off by just preparing my workspace and putting something called a eye opener on it. The eye opener has enabled the adhesive to really soften and weaken, which is really going to allow me to go into the front and top of the watch. So I've just taken the straps off, which is fairly easily to do, and I'm going to use this watch knife just to slowly peel away at the edges in order to lift the watch. And I do this very slowly, not scratching the side of the watch, nor actually injuring any part of the digitizer. It's very important the digitizer stays intact here. Now it's slowly starting to peel off, which is good. So I'm gonna gently do it. Now bear in mind, on these watches there are 3 connectors at the back, so you got to be careful you don't yank it off. You do not want to break them. So gradually, slowly applying a little tiny bit of force, it should come over. So I'll show you the 3 connections at the back. I'm just having a look inside this watch. It's really dirty, which suggests to me that it's been laying around for a long time in a very dirty area. As you can see, there's a lot of dust in it. Not a problem because it's still working, but the dust will have to be cleaned off. So the first thing I need to do is actually stop power to the watch, and I do that by actually disabling the battery. And it's very simple. There's a little bit of tape here, just where I'm prodding. You just take that off, and that enables you to get to the battery connector and the battery where the 2 meet. And once you disconnect them 2, you're able to take the power out of the watch, allowing you to work on it. Very important that you keep that little screw safe. So when you do it, try and do it with something with a little bit of a magnet on it, so you don't lose it, like I just did then in the watch. It's a very important little screw. You can get them, but it's just a pain getting them again. So put that somewhere safe. I would personally put it in the same place. You're going to put all the little parts for the watch so they're all together. And you can see here, there's a little bit there that I just showed you. That's the top of the battery case. And now I just lift this and I should be able to disconnect the battery. There you go. So it's this area here. So the battery's now this been disconnected. You can cover this area again with the adhesive, with the tape bit, and that stops all power going to the front of the watch. Now you're safe to disconnect it. Look, I mean, I've done hundreds of watches, and sometimes I don't even bother with this process, but it is safer. I've never had a problem working on a watch with the battery still in, but that doesn't mean that it cannot happen, right? So anyway, I use Isopro, as you can see, in areas where it's needed, i.e. where you need to take off some adhesive or loosen some tape. It's always good to use a little bit of alcohol, and that alcohol actually also helps clean it. So I'm just going to prod a little bit of alcohol under here. I've got it on the end of this little pointer, and that should enable me to pull these areas out. Once you've managed to pull the tape off the 3 connection points, it should expose the connectors. And just going to use a little bit of force here. I'm just making my tweezers point inward, just to help with this process. You don't have to use your tweezers. You can use your fingers, especially if you've got nails or something else. I just prefer to use tweezers just to start the process. I am using a magnifying glass here, magnifying lenses and a light, because I like to get really close to what I'm doing. Admittedly, it's not needed, but it helps me, And now I'm just going to peel the sticker off with my finger. Now I've peeled the sticker off, I'm at the stage where I need to disconnect these 3 connectors. Now there are little brackets or doors at the end of the connector, so just lift them up. I'm using tweezers. I'm slightly out of shot here, sorry, it's important that I get this right, so it wasn't in shot of the camera. But what I'm doing is I'm just using my tweezers just to prod these little gates, if you like, at the back of the connectors up. So now I'm just going to use my fingers and just slowly pull the connections out, and I should have a digitizer and glass piece in my hand in a second. There we go. Right, so we got a watch. Back piece is very dirty, as I mentioned, but before I clean it, I'm going to get rid of all the glass. So I'm going to just fast forward this bit because it's boring, but I'm just cleaning the glass out. So I pulled the pieces of glass out with some tweezers, and now I'm going to use cotton bud and some alcohol wipes with a bit of Visor Pro. Not all at the same time, but they're the 3 items I use just to clean around this area and just to clean a little bit of the inside of the watch. Isopro alcohol is 99%, and it's good because it evaporates straight away, so it doesn't leave any liquid in there. So I just put a little bit of this, and I'm just going to start cleaning. And again, I'll forward this bit because it's a little bit boring. Now we've cleaned it, it looks a lot better, as you can see. I made sure all the pieces of glass are out around the edge, which is also known as the gasket. Give it a little bit of clean at the back, but it's fairly clean. It's a fairly clean watch from the outside, a bit dirty on the inside, but that's fine. We can deal with dust. It's not a big issue. So just gave the strap a little bit of a clean as well, just using a little bit of alcohol and of course an alcohol wipe. So I'm just gonna clean that, just get all the germs and crap off it. No point leaving that. And also I'm gonna clean the inside. So for this I just use an alcohol wipe and I just kind of scrape the inside of it. You can use a screwdriver, but of course be careful not to use the sharp bit of a screwdriver. So the wipe doesn't just clean it, it also blunts the edge. Right, now looking at the actual digitizer, I'm just gonna see if there's any bits that need cleaning or taking off, but it seems all right. Now there is this third connection, the one in the middle. That's a part of the actual front screen, so I need to take that off. It's pretty easy, but force it outwards, don't force it inwards, and you can put a little bit of alcohol under this. It does make the life a bit easier. But equally you can just use a bit of tweezers and just apply a little bit of pressure and it should just pull out. Right, so once we've managed or got to this stage, the next job is to really take the glass off the digitizer, which is all good to go at this stage. Now be very careful here, this is where a lot of people go wrong. For this you do need a good tool. So I use a hot plate, which is a hot vacuum, and what it does is it sucks up the actual digitizer down through the holes, and it produces heat at the same time. And I use a string, a 1/4-inch string, to very slowly work my way between the screen and the actual digitizer. Now this is a very slow process, and you need a lot of attention to detail. Please note that this is really being sped up. This process does take a while, and you have to be gentle. There's no force, well, very little force applied here, and there's a lot of moving the watch around to make sure that you're not pushing one side or pushing the adhesive further in. You want to pull the adhesive out. Do not attempt this, guys, unless it's a practice attempt or you've done quite a few watches. So I'm just going to speed this up and actually go past most of it. So here you can see, well, you should be able to see that I've taken most of the adhesive off. There's a little dark patches in the middle, and that just means that the adhesive is stuck there. So I will need to just move it around and do that again. But you can actually start peeling the glass off now if you wanted to. It makes sense to do that, but at the same time, you know, you want to kind of make sure you don't scrape anything off the actual digitizer. So this is the state of it now. It's, you know, finally come off. My next stage here, and it's slightly out of screen, is actually to take off the pieces of glass as much as I can, very carefully peeling them off with tweezers. I'm applying hardly any force here. The digitizer they're pretty flexible, but you don't want to break them, you don't want to bend them too much. So I'm applying very little force here. Another way to do this is to just use some acetone or even some isopro, a little bit of isopro or lighter fluid even, and just dab it where the adhesive is, and it should allow you to lift it off. It's not needed. I've done this for a very long time, so I'm actually pretty used to this process, and this is fast forwarded, so I'm doing this a lot slower and gentler than it actually appears. And again, apologies, it's out of shot. It's just very important I get this right. So once I've taken the glass off, I'm just using my fingers to slowly, very slowly, just rub the adhesive into a corner. I am doing this again very slowly, and my hands are clean. You don't want to damage that black foil, if you like. It's very important you keep that intact, otherwise you're gonna have to throw it away and just start again. And this is probably one of the most expensive parts of an Apple Watch, is this LCD screen, which is pretty much what it is. So once you've taken the glue off, it's important that you test the actual screen. So I'm just gonna put these connections back into place very carefully. Don't force them in. You only need the connections on either side. The one in the middle, it's irrelevant now because that one is actually connected to the front screen, the touch screen. So at this stage, just slowly put these back in, just so you can test the front of the watch and just make sure it comes on. In most cases, you'll just get the Apple logo. You won't be able to move the front screen because the actual touch screen part isn't on yet, if that makes sense. So you just want to see that you've got a full picture. In this case, as I mentioned earlier, you won't get a full picture because the person who wants me to repair the watch has requested we keep the digitizer as is. So I'm just respecting and adhering to that because that's what they've requested. So there will be a tiny little part missing, and I will point that out later. Anyway, so what I'm doing now is I'm just popping the battery back in. You don't need to screw it down because you are going to undo it once you've done the test, and then we can just see if the watch is working. Right, so I've just done a master reset, and I'll try and get this in camera, but you can probably see there's a logo, Apple logo. Now, if you look at the top left, can you see that scratch away? Now, that's the bit I've been told to leave, but if I put this front cover onto the front of the watch, you can't see a lot of it, but it's still visible. Personally, I would have replaced it, but as I mentioned earlier, you know, that's what's been requested, so that's what I would do. Now comes the fun part. So just testing the watch, making sure everything's working right. You can't switch it off with the touch screen, so you just gotta switch it off by doing like a master reset, but then stopping halfway. But this is the bit in the corner. You can see it. It's pretty clear now, or you could have seen it, but it was there, and you could see that that's the bit that they wanted me to leave. So now that we are happy that it's working and it's fairly clean, I'm just going to undo the battery again. And as you guys might know, if you've seen my other videos of watch repairing, I'm a sucker for details. So I'm gonna give this digitizer a lot of cleaning. I'm not gonna record it all because it just looks like I'm doing the same thing over and over again, which I am, which is just cleaning the front. So I use acetone to clean this, and for me it's just very important, because what you don't want is you don't want to trap dust between the loco, which is the clear optical adhesive, and the actual glass. So it's very important you get this as clean as possible. I don't have a clean room, as in it's not completely dust free, it's a workshop, so there's always going to be little pieces of dust flying around. So I got to be double, triple, quadruple careful, which is why you see me a bit anal when it comes to cleaning. So at this stage I'm just taking the clips out again from either side of the front, just so we can move on to the next part, which is the fun part, which is actually connecting the screen to the digitizer. Right, so now I've cleaned it to death. I'm almost ready to go to the next stage. As you can see, it's very, very clean. I'll show you in a second. It's nice, it's reflecting. It's still got that horrible scar in it, but there's nothing I could do about that, and I'm just gonna have to continue as I am. So again, that's just a bit of the actual part of the top, which is what they've asked me to leave on. And now I'm just going to make sure there's no other little bits of dust on there. As I mentioned, I'm very anal when it comes to cleaning. Right, so now it looks even better. So I'm trying not to, when I touch it, I'm trying not to leave fingerprints, but if I see even a tiny little bit of dust, I go over the whole thing again. The cloth I'm using here, just out of interest, is a lint-free cloth. It's good because it doesn't leave any residue of the actual material of the fabric behind. So for me, it works perfectly. Now, I do use a little wax block to rest my watches on, but you can actually just use the battery. I find it's easy, it works fine. So I'm gonna prod this screen, the digitizer, on top of this battery once it's all cleaned. And that enables the ends, the top of it, to just fall into the end, which will make sense in a second. I do wish the camera was at a better angle, but which is, I apologize for that. But it's, for me, I'm just focused on the work rather than making this video, which I do for you guys. So here I'm using Loco, and it's the clear and the only and the best adhesive that you should use. Before I do that, I just got to make sure that the front screen here comes off. That's the blue protective wrapper. It can be a little bit tricky on some of these. Some of them just peel off. You can even use a little bit of warm water and they just come off, but some of them are stuck down so hard initially that you actually have to scrape them off. So just bear with me. There we go. Now I'm just giving this a bit of clean. There is a little bit of alcohol on this, not too much. I'm just making sure there's no dust in there, there's no glue left over, and again, just use a lint-free cloth and don't blow on it. It's a bad habit I have, but I do it a lot, but you shouldn't really do that. But anyway, ignore me, because I just end up cleaning it again. And that's exactly what I'm doing here, just making sure there's no dust particles in there. Clean both ends, because you can be fooled into thinking that it's dirty on that side when it's actually the other side. It happens a lot to me anyway, so you know, make sure you clean both ends. Yeah, and I'm fairly happy with that now. So now I'm ready, but before I do, I just give this one last clean, make sure no dust has fallen onto it. I should have really protected it, which I normally do, but in this case, you know, sometimes I just get into my work so much that you know, I just need to go back to certain items and give them another clean. So very important at this stage, you put this on the right way up. You know, the actual connector sticking out is at the bottom of the watch. Okay, it's very important, otherwise you will have an upside down LCD screen and you won't be able to touch it because it won't be connected. It'll make sense if you ever take this. So now just put a little bit of loco on and we should be able to get this stuck on. Squeeze it a little bit and put it in the center and let gravity do most of the work. You should be patient with this. You can apply a little bit of force once the screen is on top. If you do that, apply it at an angle, and the reason is your goal is to make sure you don't get any air bubbles trapped in the application. Otherwise they will be visible once the watch is on. So here goes. So the loco's on and the glass is on. I am letting gravity do its thing. I'm pushing it a little bit, tiny bit with tweezers, just adding a little bit of force. And I'm also, you might be able to see me moving it. Now I'm using, as you can see, these magnifying lenses. So I'm doing this just to make sure the corners are aligned. Now, once this sticks to the back of it, you can actually move it around pretty easily. And here I apply a tiny bit of force. You can move it around and you can even flip it upside down. Enabling you to see if the edges are aligned. It's at this stage I really don't like that piece in the corner that they've asked me to leave, but the adhesive, the loco will actually bury a little bit of that anyway, so it may not look too bad. Let's see how it goes. So it's been on there a while. I'm pretty happy with it. I've flipped it a couple of times just to see the back of it and make sure that it's all aligned. I'm happy with this. And the next stage is to actually hit it with some UV. So I hit it a few times with the UV after doing this and just make sure it solidifies. That is how it solidifies. So I'll put it under here for a fair bit of time. And once that's done, you can see it looks okay. You can still see that little bit in the corner, which is annoying, but it's there. Bear in mind that at this stage it hasn't had an outer clean, so that'll be next, to give it a good outer clean, and I start that process just by cleaning that glass, to make it look nice and shiny. And at this stage you do need to pin that connector in the middle back, and and I do that just by adding some little bit of glue. I use the T700 glue just to connect that a little bit. So once I've done that and I'm happy with it, it's time to connect the screen. And again, I'm using T700, and I'm just going to put that around the edges. Very careful not to let it seep out of the back of the watch. It's okay if it does. As you can see, the watch is on, the battery's all in, and the screws gone in and everything like that. So it's all screwed in, and just going around these edges carefully as I can. And you can also see the third connector in the middle. I've just glued that back in, and prior to doing that, I just made sure I put all the 3 connectors back into the original place, and I've put the adhesive on the top of them as well. And once that's done, close that off, give it a clean. There's the T700. It's good stuff. It's black, and it's very strong, and it is fairly quick drying. I mean, they say 24 hours. I'm having a bit of trouble getting this top back on, but that aside, they say 24 hours, but I leave it 48 hours, just to get an extra better fit. Make sure you put it back on very securely into the gasket area. Make sure it's not wonky at this stage. You can't go back. Well, you can, but you'll have to redo the whole process. That looks fairly straight to me. I'm just testing it, and the screen looks clean now. So I've switched the watch off, and I've just done a master reset. And I do that. I continuously test the watch. There's a lot of 60-70% of this video I've skipped because it's not great viewing, but it is important, and that's the testing. So here I'm slightly out shot, but I'm just clamping the watch face down, not too tight, and I am using cloths, just a bit of material so I don't leave any clamp marks on the actual watch. There you go, you can see a little bit of it there. So I'm just going to leave that like that, and I'm going to leave that for 48 hours. So 48 hours later, this is the watch. It looks good, it works fine, it's very responsive. It's a good watch. I put the straps back on. I will give them a little bit more of a clean. I don't know why they are so dirty, but they came like that. And there, I've just done a master reset, but I'm happy with this. It's a nice watch, bar the little thing in the top left, which is very annoying. But bar that, once I've cleaned it, it should be good to go. Otherwise, it works. Thank you for watching. We do prepare watches from all around the world. If you want us to prepare or repair your watch, please send me a message. Send it here on YouTube and ship it to us. We'll get it done for you within a few hours. Thank you.